It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So I do apologize right at the start in that if the background noise is really noisy, it's because I'm trying to record this while my wife and daughter are out having a play date and they are doing construction work next door. So they are currently concrete cutting. So if there's excessive amounts of noise, I do apologize for that, and I do realize maybe when we get to listening to something later, it might impact what you can actually hear. And I've just realized I've got some crazy hair happening here, but that's okay, bit eccentric. So today's video is all about Holy Pandas. Holy Pandas, wow. They've been around for a very long time, and this is really my first opportunity to actually create a Holy Panda. So before we get cracking on about that, let's actually have a look at what I'm talking about. Now the lighting, I thought I'd play around a little bit with lighting today, so I do apologize with that. Hopefully it'll make a bit more sense because I've got my desk cam, which is happening here at a frontward angle. So it will actually show something slightly different, and the lighting is there to help with that. So if we just go back to this view, what I've got here in this switch tester holder thing is I've got 4 switches. And if you've never heard of what a Holy Panda is, it's a community derived switch that is now commercially available. Originally, Input Club had created the Halo True and Halo Clear series. So this is a Halo True switch made by Kale over here in the corner. So that's the HT. And in my switch collection, there is the clear stem version of that. And it's a tactile switch. It's not bad. I've talked about it before. There is a video on this channel if you want to have a look at the Halo True and Halo Clear video. But there was another product which was run by the community, which was the Panda switch, which is what this black one here is. And because people like to mix and match and see how things feel and whatnot, I don't even remember who the original people who did this was, but I know that Top Clack was heavily involved in regards to the review and, you know, promotion of how good Holy Pandas were. They basically took the Halo stem out of the Panda. They took the Halo stem out of the Halo True switch and then put it inside the Panda housing. And supposedly it made the switch feel absolutely amazing because there was very low or little wobble in it, and it just produced a super tactile switch. There was a lot of drama in regards to that because it meant the prices for the Pandas went up through the roof because they were a very limited buy type of product. And then there was mold issues and stuff happened. And at one point in time, you were looking at about $6 per Holy Panda switch, which is just mind-blowing. So things transpired, and Massdrop eventually were able to get replacement molds or paid for the repair of the damaged mold. There were other switches that came and went that were supposedly going to be the same, if not better, than the Panda, but that stuff kind of fizzled out. And in the end, Massdrop, now known as Drop, formerly known as Massdrop, started producing Pandas again. So what I've got here in this tester is I've got a Massdrop factory produced Holy Panda. It's already lubed as well. Up here, I've got a pre-made, pre-lubed Holy Panda, which is from the person who supplied me with the pre-made plus these OG switches. I've got the Halo True, and I've got a Panda. So in the middle here is essentially where a Holy Panda sits because it's the crossover of these. So before I get into actually cracking them open and making one, let's just have a look at it a little bit closer up. Okay, so I wanted the lighting to help show that on the actual housing, you can see down below there is the initials, not initials, but the writing Inver, the INVYR. And so mixing up between the Massdrop switch and the pre-made one would be a bad idea, so that's why I've put the tape there. And you can see that it's a Chaos switch on that original Halo True, and then the original Panda is actually a linear switch, and there's the inscription on that below. So it's interesting because this Panda stem also has sprue marks, casing marks, poor focus. In the middle of the stem, you can see there's that line that runs horizontally across it, whereas if you look at these other stems, their molding seems to be slightly different, which is really interesting because, yeah, it's just a different design of mold to produce these stems, which may have resulted in their poorer quality. Now I'm going to do a wobble test, and I'm going to try and get that a bit closer. There we go. So supposedly these were really wobbly, and that's what led to people going, well, the housing seemed great, but the stems have really poor sort of control on them. Okay, there we go. So I'm just using some forceps, and you can see, I'm going to hold the switch down, how much wobble and whatnot is appearing on this. Okay, and then on, well, I suppose I'll go over to the Halo switch and repeat the same exercise. So you can see there's a lot of slack happening here, and you can even see the leaf down below here is being impacted significantly by that. Look at that. So there is quite a bit of slack, like there's a lot of space in between the housing, whereas over here on the Panda there's not as much gap. So on this pre-built one, it looks like it's actually moving just as much, because look at how big that gap is. That's massive. Whereas you're not really seeing it there, probably because the plastic color is also helping to dampen that. But it just feels like there's actually more movement. Yeah, there definitely is more movement. So on this Massdrop factory made one, because people still had doubts about what was actually being produced, there's just as much movement. So there's heaps of rocking on this, which is why I'm a little bit confused on what the whole big deal is about reduction of the wobble. The Panda stems have very low wobble, but that doesn't help when you swap in a different stem into it. So in order to actually make one of these, you will need, of course, switch opening tools. So these are just some B-stock switch opening tools from, I don't even remember off the top of my head, but I've got them on Discord somewhere. I think they've changed their logo recently. You know what? I have, it's the Tian Lab. Tianyu Lab? Yeah, Lewis from Tianyu Lab. So these are just some B-stock. I kind of did a video on them as well, so if you want to check them out, you can. The reason why I've got two is because the Chaos switches have one particular mount which requires this style to open. Let's just back that up. There we go. So it requires the double, whereas the Panda switches are a clone of the Cherry and requires this style to actually open up. Okay, so let's try this. Check out that true switch. Pop that in. Is that gonna open for me? No, it's not gonna open for me. Alright, I'll do it old school and hope things don't go flying everywhere. I have used this before and it did work, but there we go. Had to use a bit more force on it. Oops, that was off camera. I apologize for that. This frontward facing is probably not great. It's too close for it. Let's go back down over to the top. So one side's released, the other side does not want to release. Alrighty. Let's put that back together again. Let's try. Well, that's a bit of a shame, isn't it? Oh, there we go. Okay. So I've got that open. And then let's get the Panda switch. As you can tell, I don't do a lot of switch modding, so I'm not as... Well, I know how these work, and I know how to use them. I'm not super experienced in using them. And this one should, I think, work a little bit easier. Okay. There we go. Alright. So, there's the two open, and all I should be doing is taking that out. Taking that out. Oh. Putting that in. Turning that around so it's in the right place. Picking up this housing. Putting that back on top. And closing it up. If I can get this housing out without I've managed to push it in quite heavily. Just afraid I'm going to make things go spring and then I'm going to lose everything. Let's take that out. There we go. Alright. Okay. Let's try that again. That on. Okay. The clip on top of the housing. Line that up. And snap. Snap. And there you go. There is a Holy Panda. So like I said, in the height of its popularity and scarcity, just doing that would have cost me $6 to get all the parts, 2 switches, to put them together. I'm very glad that they are not up in that price range anymore. Okay, so let's just put that back in the middle. And the reason why I want to kind of do that is because this is unlubed. That's factory lubed from Drop, and that is lubed by the person who owns these. So I'm going to put this back together because I don't want to lose the parts. And that's the Panda linear slider right there. Okay, let's put that. Which way does it go? It goes that way. And an unholy linear. Yeah, it's pretty firm. It's not too bad. It's very low wobble. So let's just put that down here. Let's go back to that camera. And let's just check that out. So there's the 2 new switches. And if I reposition this again. Okay, so if we have a look, I'll turn that around so it's just consistent. Apologize, I just hit the camera there. Alright. It's actually quite snug. Like, there is still movement. You would expect it, but it's still quite snug. Whereas on this newly formed Holy Panda, if I grab that, you can still see there's quite a sort of visible gap space, and there's a lot of rocking that's available to it. I'm going to say that the cowl housings definitely do have a lot more slack on them, a lot more gap, but I think the stem also plays quite a bit into it. So that's how you make a Holy Panda, pretty much. There's nothing special, I would say, in that context. It's just the actual components. So let's just do a very simple sound test. Blocking out all the light. But, okay, so we'll go with Massdrop factory. And then the one that we just made. Factory. Made. So I can say that the lubing definitely does change the sound quite a bit. I don't know what lube that they use. And then we're going to have a look at this one here, which is the pre-made one with a different lube. It feels like it's a much thicker lube from just me playing around with it previously. So this is what that one sounds like. Practically silent. I actually do have to spam it quite a bit to get it to make noise. And that's actually bottoming out noise. If I flick it, compared to no lube, you can hear it significantly dampened. And then the Massdrop one. So that thick lube makes a big difference in regards to that tone that it has. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I find that pretty interesting. There you have it. Holy Pandas. Are they worth it? In regards to tactility, if I pull out my big switch plate here, let's go back up to that one. Okay. In regards to tactility, I feel like the spring weight will make a big difference, just like it does in the original Halo, the trues versus the clears, with the clears and the heavier spring. Because it's a traditional tactile type of switch, rather than a hard ridge like the Royals, that fall away is slightly different. The Royals have much more of a lip to them, so I feel like as far as negative tactility goes, I actually feel the Royals are probably better than that. If I compare it against some Zeal switches, and the Otomus, I'm going to say they're very similar to V2s, actually. V2s are very, very similar, but I think the spring weight is what's going to make the difference. The Royal switch is really a completely different feel to it. The Royal switch is a completely different feel in the fall away and the sort of bottoming out type of resistance to these. So it's not, the Holy Pandas are definitely not as aggressive compared to the Royal. Alrighty-o. Would I type on a whole keyboard with these? I probably wouldn't mind. I think they're pleasant enough in regards to wobble. I think the actual Zeal switches well, they're very similar in terms of the stem movement to the Royal switch, but I feel like the Zeal switch actually has less wobble, but that might be because of spring. Maybe my fingers just aren't sensitive enough. I don't know. Alright, well, that's enough. I'm not going to keep rabbiting on. There's not much point to it. Thank you very much to Gershon for actually providing me with these Holy Panda parts and pre-made Holy Pandas so that I could do this review. And I'll, be getting these back to you very, very shortly. If you like this kind of stuff, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, please hit that like button below. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel and you want to see more mechanical keyboard related stuff in general, please hit that subscribe button below. And don't forget also that we have a podcast series which is related to mechanical keyboards. You can find us on Libsyn, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I don't think we're on YouTube Music, no. Google Play, and so on and so forth. Just look up the Board Podcast. Alright, that's it. Thanks very much for checking out the video. And of course, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.